And it is the Mort Report with senior NFL insider Chris Mortensen. So the Texans, as we know, and we've just heard from Michelle, are interviewing Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy today at the request of Nick Caserio, their new GM. Is there any sense, Mort, that the right head coach hire could help repair the relationship between Deshaun Watson and the franchise?
Well, I think that's premature. The sense would be that, okay, say the Texans make it known to Deshaun Watson that we are going to hire Eric Bieniemy. Now, today's interview was virtually done. I mean, you have to remember, when there was a bye week for the Chiefs, because they had one of the two bye weeks, the only bye week in the AFC, Bieniemy was available to be interviewed in person. And that didn't happen. And then all of a sudden, we find out about Watson's unhappiness with the lack of communication, as he was assured he would have, the hiring of Caserio, which created some issues. The name Jack Easterby, everybody's probably knows that's a polarizing name in the Texans organization, and that all comes back to the owner, Cal McNair. Now, if Eric Bieniemy was actually hired, and he can't be hired till after the season, could he talk Deshaun Watson into changing his mind? That's the question. I don't know the answer. I do think, and I sense this is a very interesting week going forward in terms of Watson. He hasn't formally asked for a trade. We do know that he wants out, but he hasn't articulated specifically that point that I'm demanding a trade, and we know he has a new contract with a no trade clause, so he would control his own destination. I don't know that I answered your question, Hannah, but I can tell you that Bieniemy would have to be hired. He would have to accept that job, but he'd have to talk Deshaun Watson into staying there for that to happen.
You know, it's so interesting, given that it wasn't that long ago that another huge Houston sports star, James Harden, forced his way out of town. So if this situation is not salvageable in Houston, how many teams from those that you've talked to are expected to pursue Watson?
Well, I don't have enough fingers in terms of how many teams, but in terms of the teams I have talked to, which is, I've only talked to about 4 or 5, they all expect that there would be double-digit teams that would make an inquiry and possibly propose to the Texans. And the Texans themselves are, as ESPN Nation's Sarah Barshop reported, she covers the team for us, they've had internal discussions in Houston. What's life going to look like if we don't have Deshaun? There are teams that are prepared to pay that huge package, which would include 3 first-round picks in some form of former first-round pick and future first-round picks. And we've talked about the Miami Dolphins as being a possible attraction to Deshaun Watson and New York Jets. And so just think of a team that may need a quarterback, and think of a team that may be willing to make a huge offer for Deshaun Watson. We've never seen this ever before, a 25-year-old quarterback with control and one of the truly top 2 or 3 or 4 elite quarterbacks in the league.
And no matter what kind of deal the Texans would potentially make for him, his loss is absolutely insurmountable in terms of the team and the community. And let's talk about another quarterback. In fact, a couple last night after the Bucs win over the Saints, the 2 future Hall of Famers, one maybe having just played his last game, and they were back out there on the field. Drew Brees and his family, a little Rylan. She's, was jumping all over her brothers. And then Tom Brady finds his new receiver and one of the Brees boys. I don't know, Mort, maybe Brady will stick around long enough for one of those kids to play in the NFL. But nonetheless, that was a really sweet scene. And I don't listen, the last couple of years, Drew has really taken his time and sat back and assessed his future. He already has a contract with NBC. He knows at least some part of what he'll be doing after football. What have you heard at all about what's going to happen here and what his timing might be?
Well, it's always been the assumption that this was Drew's last season. That's been the assumption. And when he signed the contract with NBC, that kind of pushed that even more to the forefront, because he now knows which network he'll be working for when he hangs it up. Now, Drew Brees is thrown for 80,000 yards. We would all agree that he's earned the right to make this announcement whenever he wants to, and we should respect that. Like most great players I've seen go through this, they want some time, whether it be 10 days or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But I think there's no question, and certainly I think even in the Saints organization's mind, and you could read it on Sean Payton, the head coach, his face last night, that we do think that this is Drew Brees' last season, and we thought that before the season started. And but we'll respect his own process.
Absolutely. And, Peyton's already said the next quarterback is in the building. Is it Jameis Winston? Is it Taysom Hill? I don't know. From what you said, Houston's not that far down the road either.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.